So I'm currently looking into the possible microbial links or origins of astrology into mythology. This is still kind of in the conceptual phase, but I want to share what I've been looking into and some of the possible associations. I'm just going to go right into the example, which is typhoid fever caused by the bacteria Salmonella typhi, which are these little organisms behind me. Typhoid fever has been around at least for a few thousand years in terms of its documented cases or evidence for its spread to humans. Some people believe that typhoid fever was the cause of the Great Plague of Athens in 500 BC, which killed about a third of the population, or around 100,000 people, and led to the collapse of that empire. The name typhi comes from the Greek typhus, which means smoky. This is thought to be in reference to the kind of haze of its neurological long-term symptoms or its fever dream symptoms, caused by prolonged fevers that can be up to 104 degrees. The word typhus is also related to the Greek titan Typhon, who was like a big snake monster. It's also where we get the word typhoon. This is a sort of ad or comic from 1908 about typhoid. I don't know if this is a reference to that etymology, but we'll see possible connections to typhoid fever and some dragon or snake symbology. So the Hydra constellation is next to Cancer, Leo, and Virgo, which are the summer months. Typhoid fever usually has outbreaks in the summer, especially during rainy seasons. Perhaps we could say that some of the themes of Hydra or dragon is the heat of the summer as well as the heat of a fever, being symbolized as the fiery breath of a dragon or Hydra. Now, mythological tales are many things, and one of those things is generally an astrological metaphor. One of the things that Heracles represents is the precession of the sun through the zodiac. In this labor, he defeats the Lernaean Hydra, but he's also attacked by a crab in his foot, which places him in the Cancer constellation. The Lernaean Hydra is one of the offspring of the Titan Typhon, and so represents the bacteria causing typhoid fever. The depiction of the Hydra may not be solely based on the constellation, but also a reference to the actual organism. Typhoid fever enters the bloodstream and is a systemic infection, which means it can reach the eyes. Considering one of the main effects of typhoid fever is a very strong fever that often leads to fever dreams, it's possible that the bacteria showed up in entoptic dreams, where vague images of this bacteria could be seen in delirium states. And I think we can draw comparisons to a multi-headed hydra with this organism. The correlation of astrology and disease is not new. In fact, disease was one of the foundational purposes of astrology as well as mythology. Ptolemy's work, the Terra Biblos, is foundational to the concept of astrology affecting everything in nature. John Gadbury was a 17th century astrologer who wrote a lot of almanacs on disease and plagues and other misfortunes. Obviously, there were many authors and astrologers throughout the ages and across different cultures who wrote on similar subjects. Not to say that everyone always was correct on their astrological readings, but just to show that there's a rich history of astrology and disease. I think something important to consider is that astrology began from celestial navigation, but it expanded to navigation beyond finding your way home. It became a tool for navigation of health, for life path, for fortune, calamity. A large part of mythology blends epidemiology, astrology, and pharmacology. The poet Nicander, who was influential to Ovid and Pliny and Cicero and others like that, his poems were about different poisons, diseases, and venoms, and how to cure or prevent them. He wrote it in a very mythological way, referencing Perseus, Medusa, nymphs, Zeus, in context of the various diseases of plants and medicines and remedies. But again, I'm just showing you some of the context of mythology as a form of pharmacology, medicine, and ethno-microbiology. In the 15th century in Italy, the term influenza was coined. It was called influenza because it meant influence, as in the influence of the stars. It's not that the stars themselves are causing diseases, but they're indicative of microbial patterns, behaviors, and pathologies. That's further connected to the birth chart and the microbiome and the immune system, which is trained and largely functions because of microorganisms and their interaction and relationships and communication between each other. Here is another paper I found that was trying to link different onsets of influenza pandemics with Vedic astrology. Again, I'm just trying to share examples to sort of build up this concept. I think that's where I'll end the video, just trying to keep these a little bit shorter.